In this video, I'm going to show you how to use enchanting in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Why bother with enchanting at all? Well, basically it's going to make your character more powerful, and significantly so in some cases. Your weapons are going to hit harder and apply special effects, and your armour and rings will offer you greater protection, as well as a wide range of other useful bonuses. All of which is going to come in really useful at higher difficulty levels where you need that extra edge. But how do you actually enchant an item? Well, there are two methods, and it's worth noting that each method offers different enchanting effects, so it's definitely worth using both. Let's start with the first method, Sigil Stones, as is the simplest of the two. To obtain Sigil Stones, you're going to need to clear Oblivion Gates. They're the item right at the end of the Oblivion Gate, so it's a bit of an effort to get your hands on them. But remember, you're going to be completing a number of Oblivion Gates naturally to progress the main story, so you're going to obtain some Sigil Stones naturally as a consequence of that. There are 5 different levels of Sigil Stones available: Descendant, Subjacent, Latent, Ascendant and Transcendent, with higher level stones giving more powerful effects. In terms of the effects themselves, I'm not going to list them all here as there are actually 30 different stones, but it's important to know that each stone has 2 effects. One for if you use it to enchant a weapon, and the other for if you use it to enchant a piece of armour. For example, this Sigil Stone offers damage fatigue if you use it on your weapon, and fortify fatigue if you use it on your armour. Strictly speaking, you can't target specific effects as it's random which stone you get at the end of an Oblivion Gate. However, you can save the game just before picking the stone up and keep reloading until you get the effect you want. Not that you'd ever dream of doing something so degenerate, of course. To use a Sigil Stone to enchant an item, you simply need to click on the stone, select the item you wish to enchant, and then give it a name. It's worth noting here that Sigil Stones can only apply one effect, unlike the second method that we're going to cover, which can actually add multiple effects to weapons. However, the effects of Sigil Stones can be very powerful, especially at the higher levels, so don't discount them on that basis. The second method is to use Enchanting Altars, which does offer the benefit of not having to fight your way through an entire Oblivion Gate. However, to access an altar you do need to be a member of the Mages Guild, as the Enchanting Altars are mostly all within the Arcane University. There is one exception to this, which is Frostcrag Spire. This is a DLC player house that you already own if you have the Game of the Year edition of Oblivion. It will cost you a bit of gold in upgrades before you can access the Enchanting Altar, however. You can check out my DLC video that's in the same playlist as this one for further details on how to get and upgrade Frostcrag Spire. Now, enchanting an item using an altar works a little bit differently to using Sigil Stones, so I'll walk you through the process step by step. First of all, you're going to need an item called a Soul Gem. Soul Gems come in 5 standard varieties: Petty, Lesser, Common, Greater and Grand. You can buy them from various vendors as well as by looting or stealing them. There's a 6th variety called a Black Soul Gem, and this can be used specifically to capture the soul of NPCs. And also there's an infinitely refillable Grand level Soul Gem called Azura's Star. This is a really helpful item if you're doing a lot of enchanting, and you can get it by completing Azura's Daedric quest. I'm actually planning to put out a video on completing Oblivion Daedric quest in the near future, so if you're watching this video a few weeks after publishing, it's probably already on my channel and it'll be in this playlist. It's worth noting that all gems aside from Azura's Star are actually single-use items. Anyway, once you acquire an empty soul gem of any description, you need to trap a soul inside it. To do so, you're going to need to learn the Soul Trap spell, which requires you to be at least at apprentice level in mysticism, and for you to purchase the spell, which is available from vendors at any of the Mages Guild halls. Once you have the spell, you simply need to cast it on an enemy just before they die in order to trap their soul. For this to work, you need to make sure that you have an appropriate level empty soul gem in your inventory. Basically, the more powerful the enemy, the more powerful the soul, so it makes sense to always keep a number of each type of soul gem in your inventory if possible. If the soul gem you have is too small, it won't capture the soul. Also, if you capture a less powerful soul in a more powerful soul gem, it won't fill it to full capacity. You can see here how the gems I'm using are not filled to capacity, therefore I can't get the full potential out of the enchantment. The second thing you're going to need is an effect to apply to the item. Effects that can be used at the Enchanting Altar come primarily from the spells you've learned. There's a few other bits like racial abilities, but it's mostly coming from spells that you've learned. It's worth noting that you need to be powerful enough to actually use the spell in order to enchant it onto an item. For example, if you have a powerful fire spell that you've managed to learn, but you don't actually have the destruction skill to cast it, then you won't be able to enchant it onto an item either. Once you have your item, your filled soul gem, and the spell effect that you want to use, you're ready to enchant. To do so, you simply need to click on the altar, select the item you wish to enchant, select the soul gem that you wish to use. Again, remember soul gems are one use unless you're using Azura's Star, and the strength of the enchant is going to depend on the strength of the soul gem and how full that soul gem is. You then need to select the magical effects you want, and in the case of weapons you may notice that unlike Sigil Stones you're able to apply multiple effects using the Enchanting Altar. You then need to name your item, and finally you need to pay a fee in gold, which will increase for more powerful enchants. And then congratulations, you have your enchanted item. Actually using enchanted items is very simple. Weapon enchants will activate when you hit an enemy, and armor enchantments will basically just be permanently active. The most important thing you need to know is that weapon enchantments use up charges, and when you run out of charges, you'll need to top them up. Again, this isn't the case for armor and rings, the enchants on those never run out. When it comes to recharging your weapons, you have 3 options. Firstly, you can simply use more of your filled soul gems. It's cheap and effective, you can carry a whole bunch of filled gems with you as you travel, and you can even fill more gems on the go if you're holding a bunch of empties. If you're using multiple enchanted weapons in combat though, you're going to go through them pretty quickly, which is what makes the next method handy to have up your sleeve. You can also buy filled soul gems at a number of vendors, but the stock's limited and it's definitely a more expensive way to recharge your weapons. However, it can be useful from time to time when you're feeling lazy. The second method is to use Vress stones, which can be looted from Ayleid ruins. These stones will actually charge up every single enchanted item in your inventory when used, so they're pretty powerful. I'd suggest saving them for when you need to recharge during a dungeon or Oblivion gate where the stakes are high and it might be difficult to leave to recharge your items if you run out of soul gems. The third option available is just to buy recharges at any Mages Guild hall. There's a vendor in each location who will allow you to do this. However, it's very expensive and unless you're basically loaded, it's probably not the best way to spend your hard-earned gold. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video has been useful in teaching you the basics of enchanting. I have plenty more Oblivion guides on my channel, so if that sounds interesting to you, then maybe consider subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one.